400 additional staff members were appointed to join the RAF. So there's no effort in trying to reduce the debt that they're in, the economic situation they're in, and all they're doing is they're doing the very opposite in increasing it. What makes it particularly worse is that as things stand, in fact this week we start hearings nationwide on a new bill that the ANC, the government, wants to table, called the Road Accident Benefit Scheme, which will replace the Road Accident Fund. And what it'll do is it'll cost more, but South Africans will get less. So just off the top of my head, the bill proposes that if you are a child in an accident and you are permanently injured, once you reach the age of 18, you'll lose your benefits. If you're over the age of 65, you will not be entitled to any benefits. If you're a drunk driver and it's your fault to drive, you can claim. Things like that. It's a ludicrous bill. So over and above the exorbitant cost that the taxpayer, you and I, are paying, we've got to also now get a new format of the Road Accident Fund, which we'll be getting less for. So it can't continue. The situation is absolutely not on. We need to be remanaged and re-looked at, and managed in such a way that we can start reducing the debt, and also then at the same time benefiting South Africans.
And therefore, it's in the light of that, ladies and gentlemen, that we reiterate the call. Let us reduce the fuel levy by 20%, ensure that South Africans are paying, in the short interest, R1 less, and ultimately ensure that this is a year that we look after South Africans. We ensure that the people of this country understand that and we're gathered together across various portfolios and saying we must come on the 31st and send a memorandum to Treasury requesting just those three areas. Reduce the fuel levy. You don't have to reduce the fuel levy. Let's place the RAF under management so that we can ensure that South Africans are not paying the effects of what a government should have been managing over a long period of time. With those short remarks, I thank you. I will take some questions, and maybe you can ask them to any panel. Please tell us which publication you're from, and then we can go from there. Elma.
Yes, it's Yolanda from KCA. I'm not sure if you're aware of the Friday shutdown that's happening from an organization called People Against Petrol and Tariff-Free. Is there any reason why you're not doing that particular shutdown? And also, you are marching in Pretoria, but for you, is it just going to be a Tshwane sort of event, or are you also expecting similar sort of actions in other provinces, or maybe metros?
Okay, let me take other ones.
I just would like to focus more on the aftermath. Obviously, you say people should gather in Church Square to hand over a memorandum, while the Minister of Energy, Jeff Hadebe, I think announced earlier this month or last month, saying that there's nothing that they can do regarding the levies. Just in response to that, and just after the memorandum has been handed, I mean, what are the processes that will go into everything else?
We'll take other questions.
Can I maybe just add on my colleague's question, please?
Which colleague? ENCA or that?
No, that one. Do you feel there is political will to basically tackle the as you labeled it, ever increasing fuel hike? I mean, you've thoroughly, articulated in your statement about how it's affecting average households, and you're saying in your statement that it's not good enough that they're blaming international markets for this increase. Do you feel like there is political will? There are people that are sitting down and trying to really just delve into this situation to try and find a solution that's going to basically bail millions of South Africans out?
Any other?
Trisha from the SABC. Apart from the already reported global trends that perhaps have led to the fuel price locally, in your research,
What has gone wrong in terms of perhaps what our government has done wrong that has led us down this bitter path as ordinary South Africans?
Okay. Let me take just a couple of those questions. First of all, as far as the Friday shutdown thing is concerned, it's an initiative that came out of KZN. I think as more voices as possible that stand up against fuel hikes, the better. Because this is not a competition, this is not a party political, this is for all South Africans. And I want to be crystal clear that when more people are on board to say this is an unacceptable situation, the better. So if South Africans wanting to participate, they must feel free to do so. The reason why we believe we must take the matter to Treasury, that's what's important as the question. That's an institution task with an ability to be able to say, when tabling the budget and the levies, how do we adjust them for the benefit of South Africans? Because at this point in time, if you reflect on the history of why levies have increased, when the fuel levy was on the decline, when international markets were such that oil prices were on the decline and the currency was strengthening, there was an adjustment made that said that the fuel price was coming down. And the South African government said, whilst the fuel price is going down, what we are going to do is add additional levies. And at the tabling of the budget, we saw these levies increase to a point where, in contrast, they wanted to safeguard themselves. And we asked the question in simple terms, yes, fuel is adjusted on the basis of international commodity pricing. But this question of levies, why does it keep going up rather than in fact going down? South Africans are paying more for levies than any other country in the SADC region. And we are paying 5 rands just on the base of fuel alone. 5 rand 33 is the fuel levy. And that figure is the difference that makes in contrast to any other country. So our call is that is within the government. So somebody asked me the question, what do I believe? I think, Sebastian, you were asking the question, what do I believe government can do? Government must deal with its levies. I read a story a couple of weeks ago that said the road accidents were renting chairs for over 1,000 rands per chair. 1,500. 1,500 rands per chair. Now, how do you justify that when commuters are paying? That's money that comes from the commuter to be given to the people. And we're simply saying, those are the adjustments that need to go through. You asked me the question whether there's political will. I think we must recognize the fact that this matter affects all of us as a people. Politicians are servants of the people, not the other way around. And if there's no political will, we better come to a march, all of us, and say, we need to show leadership on this matter. We can't simply allow this government to sit back and say they are vulnerable to international forces and therefore they can't do anything. That is absolute nonsense. It is an uncaring government that would respond in that way, to say we are victims of commodity pricing, when 5 rands is well within their control. Especially if there is political will, we will be willing to support, even in the midterm budget that will be tabled, to say let the adjustment to the levies come on board. Let us do it with urgency. There's nothing wrong with convening parliament and arguing the case that there must be an adjustment that's putting forward. Because in that adjustment, we can ensure that without fail, the people of South Africa know that there's a government that will hear their plea. So I don't believe this current government has the political will before it. That's why we are getting together in the streets and saying, let us go and protest and ask the people to say, Treasury, we need an adjustment to the fuel levy. Let it be reduced by 20%. Let it be reduced by 1 rand so that poor South Africans and South Africans who are using transport can then know that in fact there is hope for them. Because at this point in time, if we sit back and we say there's nothing they can do, tomorrow, as there's an increase in and the currency weakens and an increase in the dollar pricing, we are already hearing rumors now that there's going to be an increase of an additional 19 cents at the end of this month? Should we just sit back and allow an inflationary pressure to be increased on people? No, let us talk about the levies, the general levies, and let's talk about an adjustment from there.
You can do it. Let's talk about what went wrong. The fuel of price is an easy way to increase taxes. And what went wrong in South Africa is that over the last 10 years, corruption has taken root in South Africa across all levels, across virtually all departments. If you address the corruption, and we're looking at a loss of 100 billion rand over the last 12 months, that's what the economists say, just purely directly to corruption. If you take the knock-on effect, it's more to the tune of 200 to 300 billion rand lost. If you look at the revenue collection, we are running way behind. So the fuel tax, the fuel levies are being used to top up other areas of inefficiencies as well as corruption. And you need to start taking care of those. If you take care of the corruption, you have more money available to take care of South African citizens, and that is what the government should hear. Because this should be a government for the people, by the people. And that is not coming through at the moment, and that needs to be fixed.
I don't know if you want anything. If you have a car, we will see you at Church Street. If you take a taxi, see you at Church Street. If you are a taxi driver, see you at Church Street. Because we must send a message to this government that the people of this country are adversely affected by the decisions that this government has made. Come on.
Yeah, I just wanted to mention that it's a continued propping up of a bloated government, number one. And in order for it to take place, they need to milk the citizenry. And so the fuel levy is an easy way because it's a captured market. You have no option. It automatically gets paid. And so it's an easy cash cow that has gone out of control. A reasonable amount of fuel of levies would be acceptable, but to the point where you've got over R5 worth of levies that people automatically pay, and of course it's disproportionately always the poor that end up paying more, because when it comes to fuel, everything's affected, from your foodstuffs to everything else, and that's the most big concern, and certainly we'll be fighting this kind of thing because it can't continue.
I think Upumama was SABC. You are. The ANC wants to tell South Africans that no, it's just international commodity pricing. That is not true. If that were the case, Botswana's fuel will be at the same comparable price, Lesotho would be in the same space, Zambia and Zimbabwe would be in the same space, all of those SADC countries would be paying the same. Here in South Africa is that yes, there is international commodity pricing, but the fundamental have to do with the levies that the state administers. It's the levy themselves. That's why we are asking for a 20% reduction into something the government has. It's well within their power. It's got nothing to do with all the other costs that calculate fuel. We are calling for those levies to be reduced. Because we start there, at least even if there's an increase in the exchange rate or the increase in the commodity pricing, in oil commodity pricing, motorists, citizens can know that at least the taxes themselves will remain at a place that is affordable for them. So that when the decrease comes, citizens can also adjust accordingly. But at this point in time, it's a government that is not wanting to hear them and instead wants to tax everything across the board so as to support themselves. Why? That's the question. Thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen. I appreciate it.